This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno.
We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air, whatever the cost may be. We shall never surrender.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
We are dangerous to the status quo in this country.
Join We Are Change Fresno.
And now here's your host, Stuart Webb and Sam Shaney.
Hello, friends. Welcome to We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM in Fresno, California. I am your host, Stuart Webb, and thank you, Woody, for that intro.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that. It gets me pumped hearing Mel Gibson from Braveheart and then Ron Paul right after it. It gets me pumped to talk about what's going on and how we're going to analyze it and how we're gonna find solutions to what's going on. I'm with my co-host Sam Cheney. Sam is going to start us off. What do we have on the agenda, Sam?
Well, we're going to cover how we got to this point in the New World Order. We're going to talk about local protests, California corruption, some new evidence coming out about 9/11, the immigration invasion, the economy, Affordable Care Act, quote, Obamacare, NSA spying, Second Amendment, war, false flags, and GMOs, if we can get through all of that.
Oh, there's no way we will, but we are going to attempt to. A lot of things are happening all the time, okay? And we really need to be vigilant. We need to start reading the news on the regular, and I'm talking about everyone. Anyone who says, I don't really care about the news because all it does is make me depressed. Well, you're going to have to change your thinking in the interest of self-preservation, okay? When we have thousands of illegal immigrants just walking across the border, including MS-13 gang members, and having our own federal government ship them in to the country and protect them. So we need to analyze this stuff. I know it's tough, but we need to accept it, and we need to push forward, and we need to restore the Bill of Rights and Constitution, and because that's what we are. We are, like Alex Jones said, he's a restorationist, a restoring of the republic, the Constitution. Okay, we're not really revolutionaries. We're just trying to get back to where 1776 founded this country, this great nation. We want to get back to that point. So we need to talk about these things, and it's important for us to care about what's going on in the interest of ourselves and our families and the future generations.
We Are Change Fresno TV went out and covered the protest by the Marines on Tuesday to release Andrew Tomarasi. I always can't pronounce his name very well. Anyway, at that protest, the mainstream media was there, a female reporter, and she arrogantly told me as I was setting up my camera equipment that she represented all three major networks in Fresno and that they are an oligopoly. So, how that ties into what I'm going to tell you, we're in the New World Order right now. You're not getting much from the mainstream media but lies. So let me read you this quote. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjugated to the lights of publicity during those early years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodidaction practiced in past centuries. That's David Rockefeller, Baden-Baden, Germany, 1991.
Yes, see, when he says more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government, that just means that people are starting to figure out that these criminals like David Rockefeller have been meeting in secret for decades, and groups like Skull and Bones and the Group and Royal Institute of International Affairs and all these, the Knights Templar, all these groups have been meeting to try to form a world government. That's been their agenda. Okay, that's on record. They want world government. What do you think the UN is? So, really, what they're saying is that we're more sophisticated. As in, yes, people are starting to wake up to their criminal actions, and we don't like it. And that's why me and Sam are on the show talking about it, because when they're admitting that they want a world government, that means the end of the Bill of Rights, the end of Constitution, and the end of humanity. We know that the ultimate goal for these elites is to get rid of entrepreneurs, people who want to be prosperous and have families. They hate us. David Rockefeller said in his book, "Competition's a sin." So with statements like that about the mainstream media, that's something that really needs to that should alarm the general public, because he's just admitting that, yeah, we control reality. All the major news stations, they're controlled by basically us. I mean, basically the New World Order, elites, one entity. And we know the agenda. So it should be troubling to us, and we need to take action, just like me and Sam are doing, and just like all those veterans were doing on Tuesday, going out to the Mexican consulate and protesting. They took action, okay? Start taking action. Do something, okay? Don't just be apathetic, okay? Because in the interest of self-preservation, unless you don't care about your existence, you need to start doing something about it.
The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one world government combining super capitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I'm convinced there is such a plot, international in scope, generations old in planning, and inevitably evil in intent. That's Representative Larry P. McDonald, who was killed in Korean Airlines 007 crash in 1983.
They're going to silence. They've tried to silence all who discuss this new world order and the elites and people who try to expose the Federal Reserve, but they can't get all of them. So that's why if we all start to take action little by little, they're not going to be able to continue their criminal action. Okay? So get off your butt, start doing some research. Just start by reading books. Pick up a book and start reading it. Okay, read The Creature from Jekyll Island, or Ron Paul's and the Fed, or Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt, and you'll start to understand how much trouble we're in, and for our future generations, how much trouble they're going to be in. They're going to be slaves if we don't do something. So don't be scared. I mean, a lot of people. Sam's told me that a lot of people ask him, aren't you afraid that you're speaking out against the government? So, aren't you afraid that they're going to do something? Well, if he doesn't do something, and if we don't do something about it, it doesn't matter, because we're all going to be slaves. And I would rather die a free man than live as a slave.
We're under attack, whether you're aware of it or not. Moving on here, the affirmative task before us is to create a new world order. That's Vice President Joe Biden's speech from the Import-Export Bank on April 5th, 2013. Countless people will hate the new world order and will die protesting it. That's H.G. Wells from his book, The New World Order, published in 1939.
Yeah, he definitely had a good understanding about what these elites have been planning for decades. I mean, because and the same with George Orwell. They could see what these elites, their actions that they were taking by creating the Federal Reserve. They were enslaved. Were planning to enslave us, and we have been enslaved. I mean, whether we think we are or not. I mean, at some level, we're all slaves to. I mean, we're slaves to our cell phones. I don't even know how a cell phone works, but we are slaves to it. So we need to start backtracking in the direction that we're going if we want to have freedom. So it's very interesting. All these quotes. I mean, how do these people? Everything that they've been talking about has now come to pass and is happening now. So we need to recognize that and understand that going forward, we need to look back a little bit and see, okay, do we want to end up like what they're saying, or do we want to have prosperity?
Our vice president's calling for a one world government. That's That's a treasonous act right there.
Agreed,
He should be
yes.
calling for U.S. sovereignty, not one world government. But some of the crimes, it's just overwhelming. Nancy Pelosi's son's company was indicted by the Securities and Exchange Commission and charged with counts of embezzlement and fraud. Paul Pelosi Jr. And you know what his company primarily did? It was a venture capitalist company that focused on environmentally friendly issues. Stuart, the California Air Resources Board here has no oversight, and they continue to use this AB 32 global warming carbon tax against businesses, driving them out at record numbers in the state with no regulatory oversight.
Yeah, the carbon tax is a complete fraud. That is literally a crime against humanity, taxing us to breathe, taxing businesses. Oh, if you want to operate and be prosperous and employ people and, have freedom, well, we're just going to tax you to, we're going to tax you to breathe, okay? We're going to tax you on how much carbon you emit. Look how far we've come, okay? But the good news is, countries and continents, Australia has repealed the carbon tax because they've realized that it's so unpopular and there's just no justification for it. I mean, if anyone really thinks that if we just stop breathing, that the world will now be a better place if we all die, I mean, that is such an anti-human, immoral type of agenda, and we have to speak out against it. I mean, plants breathe carbon dioxide, don't they, Sam? I mean,
it's a cycle of life. They're taxing, and on top of it, the major developing countries, industrial developing countries, are China and India, and they have no regulations whatsoever. So what are these hero environmentalists going to do here in California to save the world? Nothing but tax the heck out of the people and continue to drive down our standard of living. Stuart, the corruption in Sacramento is otherworldly. These people, they need to get out of office because Jerry Brown is 76 years old. He's lost touch with reality, bordering on, if you listen to their comments, they're senile, insane people that need to be removed from office. Barbara Boxer, 73. Dianne Feinstein, 81. I mean, come on, get these people out of there. They don't represent us. They represent their own private criminal enterprise.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi will probably want her brain transferred into another younger body so that she can stay in office. I mean, these people literally crave power. They love sucking the blood out of prosperous people that actually just want to be left alone. They just want to be left alone to feed their families and to produce things and be prosperous. But no, Nancy Pelosi can't let that happen. That's why she's still in office. I mean, there's a let's see, what was it? What's this guy's name? He's served 16 terms as a congressman. Pete Stark. Finally, he was voted out. I mean, is it really? It takes 16 terms to figure out that we're not going in the right direction. These people need to get out of office, and we need to make that happen. And I mean, they're too old, first of all, and they're like Sam said, they're losing touch with reality. I mean, clearly they want to bankrupt us. They want to tax us to breathe, bankrupting our state. And then to say that it's a good thing for the environment, well, why would it matter if we're all going to die? Because if we can't breathe, then no one can enjoy. We can't enjoy the earth. So it's such a fallacy, this carbon tax, and all it is political, and it's just a scam to make money off us, to suck the blood out of people that actually produce things. Because government doesn't produce anything. Remember that. They have to actually suck the blood out of producers to function, okay? So Nancy Pelosi needs to stop, put away the vampire teeth, and go home, okay? She's too old. She's lost touch, and yes, enough said.
It's disgusting. They're career politicians living off of the people's back. They need to do their public service and go home. We have a one-party system, monopoly on political power in this state by the Democrats, all rigged up one side and down the other to benefit them, not the poor people that they go around all day like loving liberals and act like who they support, because government dependence will give you nothing but more dependence. Stuart, and it goes on and on. I mean, this state is very, very corrupt. Proposition 1A, the high-speed rail, was passed by voters in 2008 for a bond for $9.8 billion, and now they're talking about it's going to cost $68 billion. It's fraud.
And it's not even going to do what we voted for it to do, which is to get us from San Francisco to LA in 2.5 hours. There's no way that that's going to happen, and they've basically admitted that. So they've lied to us. So, hey, let's not allow this to happen. If they're not going to fulfill their promise to the voters that we voted on, then let's just get rid of it and re-vote, okay? Anyway, we got to take a quick break. Here's a word from our sponsor, FresnoForward.com.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
We're back. This is We Are Change Fresno. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, with my co-host, Sam Chaney. Sam, what do we have for the second segment of our show?
I'm going to go over 9/11, immigration, and Obamacare. Stuart, a very big hero, I guess. I'm at a loss for words, has come out about this whole 9/11, about documents. 2 congressmen have pushed for the release of a 28-page document showing Saudi involvement in 9/11. And so we see Republican Representative Walter Jones from North Carolina and Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from Massachusetts, both went in there and read these 28 pages that were redacted by the Joint Intelligence Committee, and they called for a new investigation into 9/11. The most recent representative was Thomas Massey, a Republican from Kentucky, to read these. And he says that it's truly disturbing and the American people need to know what is in these documents. And so what we've seen from 9/11, the mainstream media and the government told us that we were attacked by Al-Qaeda because they hated us for our freedom. And what have we gotten since then? We've gotten the Patriot Act, the National Defense Authorization Act, the TSA, a police state. I mean, look around, folks. And we've gotten government spying, NSA, in all your business. I think if the terrorists hated us for our freedom, then they've won because we don't have any freedom anymore.
Yeah, the only argument I continue to hear from, justifying 9/11 is, Saddam Hussein, and which we invaded Iraq based off of basically saying that, weapons of mass destruction, and he has ties with Al-Qaeda, let's just invade Iraq. People say, well, Saddam Hussein wasn't a good guy. Well, we put him in power and then took him out when he didn't do what we wanted. So we've started illegal foreign wars, unconstitutional, because of 9/11, lost all of our freedom. In basically, Bush said, it's like him saying, well, I have to abandon free market principles to save the free market. That's basically what he said with the Patriot Act. Like, in order to save our freedom, we have to abandon the freedom that we have. It's such hypocrisy, and we've bought it. I mean, World Trade Center 7. Most people don't even know what that is. It just collapsed. It wasn't hit by a plane. It just collapsed. So that alone needs to. There's questions that haven't been answered. Okay. And back to the congressmen that have actually spoken out against this recently, the Congressman Massey, I watched the video. I mean, he is very sincere, or else he wouldn't have come out and said, he's not coming out to get political points. I mean, he's coming out because he cares about this country and saying, hey, look, we need to reinvestigate 9/11, okay, and the involvement of the Saudi Arabians. Why? And Bush said, we don't want to declassify these documents because it'll violate our national security. Look, we need to stop buying that argument. We're going to have this guy assassinated, but we're not going to release the documents because it's a violation of our national security. We're going to, Obama basically just doing whatever he wants. Well, it's a matter of national security. I mean, it's dictatorship now, okay? So if you're not willing to admit that, hey, there's questions that haven't been answered about 9/11, and we already know the mainstream media completely lied to us. On the day that it happened. I mean, we had Building 7 being reported that it fell with someone reporting that it fell, and the building's right behind him, and it's standing.
BBC.
Okay? That is on record. Okay? So
they're reading off a script, Stuart.
Yeah, exactly. They're reading off a script. they got the press release too early, apparently. And so we really need to ask questions. We need another investigation. And if we want to save this country, we got to figure out why we want to save it, because we've lost all our freedom. So maybe we should go back and look, well, why did we lose all our freedom? And then why do we want to save the country if we have no freedom? That's why this whole border situation is ironic, is because these people, these kids, and not just kids, immigrants of all ages are coming over the border. They're leaving tyranny to come to another tyranny. And as Nancy Pelosi said, well, we can't send them back to a burning building. Well, sending them here and letting them in here is basically locking them in a building and then preparing to light it on fire. Okay, because that's what this country is right now. So anyway, I'm very happy that these congressmen have come out and said, release these 28 pages, because we need to see them. The public needs to see them. Okay, the government works for us. Okay, give us let us see the documents. It's ridiculous. Transparent government. That's exactly what we need. Okay.
Down on the border, Stuart, the UN is taking control of the border. 2 anonymous Border Patrol agents reportedly told radio host Dave Hodges that under the pretense of labeling legal aliens refugees, the United Nations is calling the shots on America's border operations, and the UN is deciding which immigrants to ship to various parts of the United States. And to go along with that, reported on Laura Ingram's show, was that over 100,000 of these illegal alien children are actually MS-13 gang members coming into Texas. And that was reported yesterday or a few days back. So that's these poor children that Nancy Pelosi refers to as baby Jesus. She literally said that, folks. This is a quote from her. These children, how's it go? It goes... well, she compared them to baby Jesus.
She said baby Jesus was a
refugee from violence. So I guess if you're against illegal aliens immigrating to this country who could be Al-Qaeda, MS-13 gang members, then you're against baby Jesus. That's what she's implying here. That's why she's lost her mind and needs to be removed from office due to insanity.
That's the psychological warfare that we're dealing with. Hey, Christians, Nancy Pelosi is going to say, if you don't take these illegal immigrant gang members, you're now anti-Christian. You hate Jesus, I guess, because she's comparing these kids to Jesus. But it's just a horrible situation, and she's saying that, oh well, people that have embraced it and not politicized it, those are the politicians that that really care about this humanitarian crisis. Well, embracing it, in my opinion, is politicizing it, and you're politicizing the fact that we need to open the borders, or else we're racist. That's what they're trying to politicize, okay? And look, the UN is not. Since when does the UN have authority in a sovereign nation? Well, I guess they're starting to operate as the world government. So all those people that thought it was real funny, I used to hear, oh, we run the UN, man. The UN would be nothing without us. No, they've used us, our wealth and our freedom, to become the world government. And now, guess what? We're going to answer to the UN. Okay, so as this continues with the whole collapse of the border, we're going to see more and more UN officials. We're going to probably, in the near future, see United Nations troops on our soil. And guess what? We're going to accept it, because that's just going to be the way it is, right? We're not a sovereign nation anymore. I mean, if you're not willing to, get out on the streets and protest and use your First Amendment, you're going to lose it anyway. So, I mean, yeah, if you like the UN being our government now, then I guess just allow them to decide what they're going to do with all these illegal immigrants coming across the border, because that's what's happening.
It's disgusting, Stuart. I never voted for anybody at the UN.
Exactly.
I don't like anybody at the UN.
Unelected.
Yeah, unelected intellectual elite, just like David Rockefeller said. That these people are self-appointed dictators, technocrats above the law with diplomatic immunity. And we see down on the border, reported by real Border Patrol agents that want to save America and restore the republic, that they're using asymmetrical warfare against us. This is treason by our own government. Understand that. Border agents operating on federal land must comply with a slew of laws, including National Environmental Policy Act, the Wilderness Act, and the Endangered Species Act. That's your Agenda 21 one world government right there. And so they also have to obtain permission or permits from federal land management agencies before undertaking operations such as maintaining roads and installing surveillance equipment. So that creates these corridors of drug smuggling for the cartels who are working with the federal government. It's crime right in your face. That's all you got to do is look to see this is what's going on. When MS-13 sending their gangs over here. So when they can't get the people off the land through their Agenda 21 lies and the Endangered Species Act, through their soft power, their enforcers are here now, the MS-13 gang members, and they're going to use them to force people off the rural lands into the mega cities, just like the Agenda 21 says. Please read it, folks, because they're implementing it right now.
Yeah, and maybe if drugs were legal here in this country, we wouldn't have the black market crime that we have with these gang members running the drugs. I mean, look, they try to convince us, oh, well, yeah, drugs are bad, let's make it illegal. But then you're not closing the borders, and you're allowing the government to help smuggle drugs in through all these gang members and these cartels, working with the cartels. So it's a bunch of hypocrisy, and all it is, it's asymmetrical warfare, it's psychological warfare. We are under attack, folks, okay? And I don't know what it's going to take for people to literally wake up and start protesting what's going on. I mean, really, what is it going to take? Will it take UN troops in your streets saying, hey, there's a curfew, and, freedom of speech has been banned for the next, a couple of weeks? I mean, is that what it's going to take for people to really be like, hey, we're not going in the right direction? I kind of like what we used to be, that thing, the Bill of Rights, Constitution. I remember I kind of like that a little bit better. Is that what it's going to take? Or can you not see what's happening? So it's getting more ridiculous by the day. I mean, Joe Biggs of InfoWars just walked across the border into Mexico and then walked back on camera, said, hey, this is how they're getting through, and there's nothing being done about it. Okay, the Border Patrol is not even allowed to go to that area because of the animal preserve. So we really need to wake up, folks, and I mean, just get ready. Just get ready for what's going to happen. I mean, be ready. At least be ready to take action when the collapse happens, or if the collapse doesn't happen. I mean, you need to prepare your family in some way. Start reading about what's happening in these elites, the books that they've written, and try to guard yourself with knowledge at least. I mean, because they're going to ban guns in this country. They're going to attempt to ban guns. I don't know how they're really going to go and confiscate all the guns. And we have hundreds of millions of guns. I mean, 100 million guns have been sold in the last 6 years. So I don't know how they're going to do it. So that means that they're probably going to use an occupying army like the UN,
like MS-13,
and gang members, their own little terrorist army, just like they use Al Qaeda around the world. They fund both sides, people.
They're bringing Al Qaeda here too, Stuart. Governor Jerry Brown won't deploy National Guard troops to the Mexico border like Texas is doing in response to the influx of illegal immigrants. Jerry Brown, he loves these dreamers. He wants more of them here because the dreamers are better than American citizens, better than Californians in their eyes, because they get more money from the federal government in grants to the schools. It's all a giant money laundering fraud scheme. Attack against good people in this state. We need to stand up and say, no, we've had enough of this corruption.
Yeah, and if you look at Jerry Brown, he's granting illegal immigrants driver's licenses. He wants all these
They can't even read.
Can't even read. How are they going to drive? Can they drive a car? We don't even know how old they are to begin with. And it's so sad. I've seen pictures of these children in these detention camps. And, if you look at where they're keeping them, these FEMA camps, there's pictures. It's a detention center. They already have detention centers ready to go, okay? And they're without parents. So guess what? The state is going to be their daddy, their mommy and daddy, okay? Isn't that great? We got a bunch of scum using them for political gain and bringing in a whole voting block. And guess what? They don't have parents. So the state gets to educate them and teach them how to live their life and what's right and wrong. And that's definitely not a good thing. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Here's a word from our sponsor, FresnoForward.com.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
Folks, we're back. I am your host, Stuart Webb, with my co-host, Sam Chaney. This is We Are Change Fresno. We're going into our third segment of the show. Sam, what do we have to start this segment?
We're going to get to Obamacare and the economy and hopefully the NSA. Stuart, I want to say the victims in all this are these children. They are using them. The federal government is guilty of child trafficking, all right? And they're using these children as a shield to play on the public's emotion and let them grant whoever blanket amnesty in this country and leaving it wide open the way they are, which is why all this TSA, NSA spying on you, it's all a giant fraud, okay? Because our borders are wide open. If they really cared about national security, they would secure the borders. It's that simple. And people would immigrate to this country in a legal and lawful manner.
The only thing that makes sense with what they're doing is the fact that they want a world government, people, okay? Just like you said, oh, look at this hypocrisy. The NSA spying. Oh, they're spying on everyone because of, our security. That's what they use, the excuse. But then the borders are wide open, and they're letting gang members come in with records. It was even said that some have tattoos up to 9 teardrops on their face, which means they've killed 9 people. Okay, that's in gang that's a gang-affiliated tattoo for these MS-13 gang members. So they're just letting them in, and they're being told. That's what Border Patrol agents have been told. Let them in, okay? So the only reason we bring up these elites and their plan and Agenda 21 is because it's the only thing that makes sense, folks, okay? It is. That is the ultimate goal. End national sovereignty. They want a North American Union, a Western bloc of countries to be one sect of the new world order, because they already have the European Union, okay? So it's the only thing that makes sense. So stop listening to the hypocrisy.
Stuart, it's disgusting the level of criminal activity that our federal government is doing to us right now. I mean, and then they masquerade as the saviors all day. They're using problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic against us. Please look it up, folks. And you can see pretty clearly this is how they're operating, and it works pretty good because the public's blind to this. It's mind control. But moving on here to Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. A federal appeals court just invalidated Obamacare subsidies in 36 different states. And so that's states that don't have their own state health care. Like here in California, we have the state system, Covered California, which is another giant fraud, which they piled millions and millions and millions of dollars. They spent $30 million on the advertising campaign alone to brainwash you into thinking how great it is. Affordable Care Act, very Orwellian. The average rate of people's premiums has increased.
I mean, think about it. 30 million, you said, on marketing it, right?
Yeah.
On advertising it?
Yeah.
I remember seeing they spent like $1 million for a video of Richard Simmons and 2 other hosts to just talk about getting signed up. It was a joke. And I remember I made a video about it, and it was so ridiculous. I couldn't even hardly believe it. But this is what they do. They take our tax dollars, they steal from us, and then spend it on promoting the scam to get more money out of us, okay? That's how bad it is, and it's going to continue. It's like the Nigerian email scam, okay? Just keep sending me the $5,000. Oh, I need another $5,000. I'll get you that $5 million. I can't even spell certain words correctly in this email, but I'm an ambassador. An important person of Nigeria. So please send me money, and people buy it, okay? It was reported a couple months ago, at the beginning of the year, that a woman spent $500,000 to try to get what? She bought the lie. I guess this guy was promising her millions and millions of dollars for her to give $500,000 to someone overseas. I don't know who even knows who it was, but it's the equivalent. What our government is doing with Obamacare and basically with all of its actions, is the Nigerian email scam. Just, hey, give us money. Actually, no, not even give us money. We're going to take your money because we're the authority. Because you can't
with
do
the threat
anything.
of force.
With the threat of force, they have a monopoly on force because they're the government and they're so big now. That if you don't do what we say, we're going to put you in jail, or we'll figure out a way to, stifle your producing or your prosperity. And then we're going to actually use that money to promote more of our scam and more of our policies to enslave you even more. Okay? So Obamacare is a giant screw job. No one's going to get the care. And people are still, but I haven't figured out how people are still, how it hasn't actually, that this hasn't actually just collapsed the country, because it's such a horrible law, and it's so unconstitutional. I don't see how it's going to last. It's going to have to end. I mean, it will. It's going to implode the system. No one's going to get the care they need, and it's going to bankrupt everyone, especially when the fines for the businesses come in 2015. See, I think they pushed it a year, right? I think so they could get more time. They're probably waiting for these 2014 elections to get the rest of their troops in office, and then they're just going to implode business. I mean, how are businesses going to be able to pay the fine?
Stuart, is a giant scam, and it was uncovered in an undercover sting operation by our own government. Okay, the Government of Accountability Office went and filed fake applications to get subsidies for insurance, and they were granted 11 out of 18 attempts. It is a fraud. Any scamster criminal wants to go in there and work it around and give some fake social security numbers from identity theft that they did against a tax-paying citizen. It's wide open for fraud. And by the way, the state of California granted their IT contract for Covered California to a foreign company. We care so much about California. Yeah, right. $300 million, Stuart, they gave away to an Irish firm to do the IT work for Covered California. It is shameful.
Well, they spent $1 billion for the healthcare.gov website. Okay, $1 billion to our government, which inflates the dollar at a massive level, and taxes and us and borrows way more than they can even ever possibly fathom to pay back. They spent $1 billion to them is nothing. Okay, oh, there's $1 billion. That's why when honestly, when I get reports, oh, the government spent a couple $1 billion on this, I'm like, oh, that's equivalent to $100 for them, because they literally print trillions of dollars and borrow trillions of dollars. So that just shows you how little your purchasing power is right now with your dollar. Because remember, when they inflate the dollar, you don't get that money. Okay, they give it to their select insiders. They don't even have to tell you who they give it to. They can bail out banks with it. They can bail out GM. They can bail out whoever they want. But remember, you don't get that new money. Okay, so you pay the higher prices until wages finally go up years after you've been paying higher prices because of the inflation. But people just are never going to understand this if you don't start reading a little bit, reading into what real Austrian economics, free market economics is, and you'll understand why inflation and borrowing is such a terrible idea, especially when we're already massive amounts in debt.
Stuart, 18% of Americans, or fewer than 1 in 5, say that someone in their family is better off because of the Affordable Care Act, and that's according to a CNN poll. And that shows the failure of collectivism right there. We all have to go under the umbrella of affordable care when 1 in 5 people say they're better off. The individual is who is better off in a free society, not a collectivist society where the many benefit the few.
Yeah, more regulations on healthcare by the government made the healthcare system become expensive, and then they said, "Hey, we created the problem, but we're gonna actually just make it universal healthcare under government, all healthcare under government, even though we created the problem by putting regulations on healthcare and new laws that were probably unconstitutional." And see, they create the problem, and then they offer the solution. Oh, we wrecked the healthcare system. Now let's have Obamacare, which even wrecks it even more. So you have no healthcare essentially, and you're bankrupt. So problem, reaction, solution. That's what happens. It's it's thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And their synthesis is power, ultimate power over you.
That's right, Stuart. In the interest of time, we're going to move on and get into the economy here now. Carl Denninger is from Market Ticker is warning again, like he did before 2008. He says, in early 2008, I noted a fairly serious decrease in online revenue per impression in the advertising space. This was not reflected in the so-called official reports from various online ad firms, but I saw it quite clearly across the data I had available to me. What followed, of course, was quite clear in the markets. And so he's warning that he sees the same patterns that formed before the 2008 collapse.
And the only thing that they can do is temporarily fix the problem for a little bit by inflating the dollar to see if it can stimulate the economy. But it never will. But they're going to continue to do that. That's why we needed to collapse in 2008. Okay, we needed a collapse so that the markets could become clear again. Okay, because all the interest rates were artificially low. And remember, interest rates are all it is a price. It's the price of loan. It's the price of loaned capital. Okay, but if there's no capital in the bank and they artificially lower the interest rates to a certain level, that tells the market, oh, well, I guess there is savings in the bank. Well, no, they just inflate the dollar and borrow, and then artificially lower the interest rate. So then people make malinvestments. Okay, and so 2008. We should have collapsed all that new money that they had been pumping into the economy. They needed the market to actually readjust to what the real interest rate should have been. But no, instead we just bailed out everyone so that we could have another 5 years of apparently the recovery, the government says. But we knew that we were in a recession, and then we've been in a depression. But now that's coming to an end. It's going to collapse, and the only thing that they can do is try to cover it up, patch it up with inflation, with new money. But how long will that last? Another year, another 2 years before it's even worse? And as we continue to, throw money at the problem, it's going to get even worse. So what we need, the best thing that could happen right now is a financial collapse so that people can understand, hey, this is not real wealth. There's not production going on, because that's the only thing that can actually make us wealthier. Producing. We have to produce things, okay? If nothing's being produced but paper money, that's not real wealth.
What the government is good at is collecting taxes, taking away your freedoms, and killing people. It's not good at much else. That's author Tom Clancy. Call it what you will: taxes, penalties, fees, fines, regulations, tariffs, tickets, permits, surcharges, tolls, asset forfeitures, foreclosures, etc. But the only word that truly describes the constant bilking of the American taxpayer by the government and its corporate partners is theft. What Americans don't seem to comprehend is that if the government can arbitrarily take away your property without you having much to say about it, you have no rights. You're nothing more than a serf or a slave. In this way, the police state, with all its trappings from surveillance cameras, militarized police, SWAT team raids, truancy and zero tolerance policies, asset forfeiture laws, privatization of prisons, red light cameras, stingray guns, fusion centers, drones, black boxes, hollow point bullets, detention centers, speed traps, and abundance of laws criminalizing otherwise legitimate conduct. Wow, that's a mouthful right there. Is little more than a front for a high dollar covert operation aimed at laundering as much money as possible through government agencies and into bank accounts of corporations. And that was an article written out of the Rutherford Institute by John Whitehead. That was a little sampling of it. And so, Stuart, that about says where we're at in this country with the economy. We're fascist state now. Corporate and government interests have merged together to go ahead and implement tyranny on the people and bleed us out until we have nothing left, until we're in FEMA camps.
Yeah, we live in a police state. They're going to bleed us out till we can't afford to produce anything. And then they're going to take over. And they're going to be the saviors. They're going to pose as the saviors, even though they just engineered it all. And they did it all illegally and unconstitutionally and criminally. But they're just going to say, hey, well, you're going to have to accept this new United Nations credit, okay? And however, it's not going to be the dollar, the Federal Reserve note anymore. It's going to be the new world currency, or who knows? We don't know, but that's how they're going to play it. That's why they need all these police state systems, is because they are engineering the collapse. Okay, when we see tanks being shipped in on trains, and we wonder, well, man, why is everywhere I go, or there's Black Hawk helicopters flying everywhere all the time now in cities? I mean, I see them all the time now in Fresno. Okay, I never saw them before, so you wonder why all this is happening. Is because they're setting up the police state, and so yeah, we really need to be aware of their criminal operation, so that when they collapse everything, we know that they are the criminals. They are the ones who engineered it, and we need to look at them. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. Here's a word from our sponsor, FresnoForward.com.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
Folks, we're back. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Chaney. We are Change Fresno, and we have one last segment for you. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate our sponsors, and we appreciate all the liberty lovers in this country and around the world promoting freedom and unalienable rights. And we're going to continue to promote those things forever until we die, okay? Because we would rather live free than die, or we'd rather live free than be a slave, okay? And we'd rather die fighting for liberty than to be enslaved by an elite scum. So, Sam, what do we have for our last segment?
We're going to try to get through the NSA, Second Amendment, the war, GMOs and solutions. I don't think we can, but we're gonna fly through it. Whistleblower at the NSA, William Benny, who reported on last week, blowing the whistle about. He says that yes, the NSA is working with the IRS to persecute the Tea Party, and it's pretty simple as that. He says they have the capability to do it, and they are doing it.
Well, we are the #1 enemy. I mean, if you are a gun owner and you like the Bill of Rights and Constitution, and you like limited government or no government, you like self-governance, you like family, you might have a Bible in your house, you are the enemy, okay? Remember that. So, of course, they're going to spy on their enemies, okay, instead of spying on foreign enemies. It doesn't matter. Everyone's an enemy to the New World Order has not joined with them. And that's a very little group, okay? That's a couple thousand people, maybe a couple 100,000, including all their minions that are carrying around all these operations to bring about the New World Order. But yes, if you like the idea of having children and having a wife and prospering and living under the Bill of Rights and Constitution, you are the enemy.
That's right, Stuart. This whole spy criminal system is undermining world confidence. Besides the collapse of the dollar, which all the world's moving away from now, we see it in technology. Germany has by the way, yeah. Germany may also join the BRICS nations in the economic forum.
That's big
to go against the dollar, and that's real big because they're the only country in Europe that actually produces something.
Yeah.
But the loss of confidence has, with all this NSA spying, has forced Germany to go back to typewriters, because that's how they're going to pass around intelligence now, because they don't trust electronics, because the NSA is such because like we talked about last week, 80% of all internet traffic goes right through the NSA hubs.
Germany's buying typewriters? Really? This is what it's come down to? Okay, to avoid spying? And we know that, what was it, Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, we were tapping her phone, okay? The NSA was. That is ridiculous, okay? And how about we you know what? Let's tap the phones of potential terrorists. Oh wait, but we run them. Okay, yeah, it's such a fraud that we have this amazing technology. It's 2014. Everyone's got a smartphone. I mean, we have amazing technology, and we can't figure out where terrorists are. It's because the terrorists are meant to destabilize countries and nations and to make us fearful so that we give up our liberties. And guess what? That equals more control for the criminal elite, bankers, and and government. So it's just ridiculous. We have Germany going to typewriters now, and you know what? Hey, that's a slap in the face to the Orwellian police state, right? So that's a good thing.
That's one of the few things that we actually produce in this country was technology. The rest of the world's not buying anymore because it has built-in backdoor spy systems in it. It's disgusting. They are literally strangling the life out of our economy every way possible through the loss of confidence, through their criminal actions. Here's a sad story, but it's actually a good story too in a way. I don't want anybody to die. I don't want any violence. I believe in the non-violence principle. But a Texas jury refuses to indict a man who shot and killed a police officer during a no-knock raid. And so what happened was the cops just go in this guy's house. How does he know who they are? He doesn't. Could be one of these illegal alien MS-13 gang members coming in there to rape and rob his family. So what does he do? He shoots them dead. And a Texas grand jury did not indict him for this.
That's really good to hear. I'm sorry that if people think that cops are God, they're not God, okay? And just because most cops are good people, but just because someone says or that, oh, your chief says, well, we got to do this no-knock raid, that's illegal, okay? It doesn't matter. You can kindly knock on the door and then ask them if you can search their home with a warrant, okay? That's the legal way under the Constitution to do things. So these no-knock raids, if someone did that to me, I would be scared to death, and if I had my gun near me, I would probably start firing if I did not recognize the person. I mean, if someone comes in your house with guns pointing, guns blazing, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to fear for your life, and you're in your own home. They don't even have a right to be there, okay? So cops are not God, and it's sad that the cop got shot, but maybe he shouldn't have done a no-knock raid. I mean, that's an illegal, unconstitutional order, and you can choose not to obey it.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to speed up here. Jerry Brown signed two anti-gun bills into legislation this week. The first bill he announced signed Friday, AB 1964, addressed single-shot handguns. Bill Brown also signed AB 1591, which speeds up how quickly courts can notify the State Department of Justice when it is determined that a person can no longer legally carry a firearm in California.
Yeah, and you know what that's going to mean is that's just going to mean more people that believe in liberty are just going to move away from the state because we're a police state, we're a welfare state, and I mean, all these gun laws. I mean, look, the only gun law, in my opinion, is the Second Amendment. Okay, if you're not brandishing a firearm and in public, I mean, you have the right to carry. Period. Okay, our founding fathers didn't die and walk in the snow with no shoes, so that we could actually have someone nitpick us about the right to protect ourselves, okay? So, yeah, these gun laws, they're unconstitutional, and, I mean, any form of gun control in my mind is unconstitutional, so.
The wars now, finally, running out of time. We're funding both sides in Israel and Palestine. It's disgusting. Like the Founding Fathers said, stay away from foreign entanglements. We need to bring our troops home and secure our border now. I don't care what side of this you're on, Palestine or Israel. It doesn't matter. None of our business. We need to get out of there. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Israel created Hamas. So we have no business there. We're funding both sides of the war machine. Israel goes and blows it up, and then we pay contractors to go rebuild it. It is a scam. It's a fraud. People are dying, and it's a sin.
Yeah, and this whole issue with the Palestine-Israel issue, look, we don't need to be involved, and all these anyone who's a conservative talk show host, they're saying, oh well, Obama's appearing weak and he's not helping our allies. Look, we can be friendly with countries, but we don't need to be funding that. We fund Israel, okay? We just give it. It's basically foreign aid, which is basically welfare, okay? We give them money, and then we have to deal with what how they decide to defend themselves. No, they can make that choice if they want, and we don't need to be involved, okay? because I don't got a problem with either of those countries. Okay, they're not a direct threat to me. So we need to stop giving foreign aid to any of these countries. We don't need to be involved. We don't need to send our troops there. And for people to say, well, Obama's not supporting Israel. Look, and Obama's doing that just so you can talk about that and be partisan and say that he's a bad president. Of course we know he's a bad president. They all are, okay? So we don't need to be involved at all. So don't act like it's a partisan issue. We don't need to be there at all.
The mainstream media are warmongering, war criminal scum, all right? The day of that crash in Russia, the plane that flew over Ukraine that should have never flew over there because the FAA, which Fox News lied about last night, the FAA said that's a war zone. You can't fly over it, okay? 3 months ago. Fox News, I watched them lie through their teeth last night and say that warning was never issued. They're lying, warmongering, war criminals. What they're trying to do is start a false flag to get us into World War III, maybe? We don't want to go to war with Russia. We both have nukes. It's not going to end well. A false flag, which is the business of government to get, because the people don't want to go to war. A false flag is a horrific staged event blamed on a political enemy and used as a pretext to start a war or enact draconian laws in the name of national security. That's exactly what they're using. That's what 9/11 was, a false flag. That's what all these public shootings are, a false flag. That's what this crashed airliner was, a false flag. Don't go along and don't believe the lies anymore. We don't need any more war. We need peace.
Look, Smedley Butler said it in War is a Racket. Go read it. It's like 14 pages. Just download it, please. Okay? People that profit from war, those are the people that want to send your relatives, your sons, your daughters to war to get killed. They get no benefit out of going to die for the profiteers of war. And you say, oh, Stu, you don't believe in the free market? Well, I don't believe in actually forcing someone to go die for something that they don't want to die for, okay? So if we want to go to war, just make sure that every American citizen, if we're really going to go to war, every American citizen better have a share and a percentage in all the companies that are going to make money off war, okay? Then you don't want to go to war now because you're not going to get all the benefits. We're going to share the benefits, right? Okay, yeah. So we need to understand that there's no benefit to anyone that actually goes and does the dirty work. There's no benefit to them. It's only for the profiteers of war, okay? It's a big scheme to make money. It's a huge government program, basically. And not even just a government program, an elite, above-the-law corporate program that goes on all around the world, and it needs to be stopped. It's ridiculous.
They send our veterans over there to get killed, blowing up, and they don't even take care of them when they get home. It's disgusting. It makes me want to rip my hair out. And like Gerald Celente says, if you love war so much, all you pundits and talking heads out there in the media, you go to war. Yep. And politicians, you go fight the war. They're never going to do that because they are war criminals. Stuart, moving on here. Some good news that we have is Italy has made it a crime to even plant genetically modified crops. They're going to go ahead and give you a jail sentence of 1 to 3 years and fine you 10,000 to 30,000 euros if you plant GMO crops in Italy. That's what needs to happen here in America.
Their economy's already been collapsed, so they figure, hey, we really need to start thinking in the interest of self-preservation, and that's why they're not allowing GMOs to be grown, is because they've already been raped economically, so they don't want to be raped physically through the poisoning of GMOs. So that's good to hear, and we need to start moving that way. Everyone needs to have an organic garden in their backyard, okay? Start eating better, and don't be a slave to these corporations that feed you, okay? Because they don't want you to be healthy.
Another solution here, Stuart, is there's ways around Obamacare. You can get an exemption. You can join a group that has lower insurance rates. You can go to your church, your clergyman, and say it's against your religion, and they will waive your requirement to carry Obamacare. So that's a couple ways around it. It's otherworldly hypocrisy that they're putting down on us. With Obamacare, another solution that we have from the 10th Amendment Center, they come out with a lot of great solutions, is to go ahead and cut off the water to the NSA. That's how we will stop them from spying. We will cut off their resources and not allow them to operate.
We can do it, folks. If we all take action, We can all become leaders. That's how revolution starts, is that everyone becomes a leader and then another person becomes a leader. And, we can make change. We can affect change. Folks, that's all we have time for you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Peace, love, and liberty. Good night.
Speak out and take action while we still have time.
This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno.